Hello, I'm Jace Dynamite. Who doesn't love who doesn't love aquariums or sea life? There have been, there are many famous places like that out there. Like the Shed Aquarium in Chicago, the Indianapolis Zoo with its dolphin shows, and even the aquarium in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And that's a resort town. And it's really fun. Especially, it's in the middle of a town. It's not like in a big city or anything. It's not like in a big city zoo or anything like that. But the most famous one is SeaWorld. And the shows and animals at SeaWorld, people have always adored. As much as the Shed Aquarium in Chicago, and everything I just said, and many more that I may not have mentioned. But out of all the animals, the ones that are loved the most in SeaWorld, and pretty much a lot of other aquariums if they have them, are orcas or killer whales. Me personally, I love orcas. Sure, even though they're called killer whales, doesn't mean they're vicious killers. Besides, they're just really majestic animals, and besides, who doesn't love whales? I mean, there's like dolphins in the whale family, uh, blue whales, humpback whales, many more. But orcas are one of the most unique of them. And they're also one of the cool types of whales. I mean, they're black and white, and those white spots on the both of their sides that where their eyes are at the bottom, their tiny eyes. Sometimes I always mistake those white things. Those were their eyes. They didn't have any real eyes, but I was wrong. Anyway, even though orcas were majestic and stuff but there was just one at SeaWorld that caused many deaths of many entertainers or workers at SeaWorld. Of 3 workers, one of them was was prospected dead because he was found on that orca, and the other two were actually killed by people. I mean, by the orca. I am, of course, talking about Tikilum. He has been the most infamous and yet still legendary known whale in orca history and SeaWorld history. He's the Al Capone of whales. But unlike this, he actually has a tragic backstory to it that might explain why this happened. I mean, sometimes animals just kill people because they're hungry, because they're trying to protect their territory, or it's because they're upset about something that we might have done something to him that we may not have known that made him sad. So he had no choice. Well, you saw my last review, one of my things I promised to do was to do a review of a movie, a documentary released last year that's really popular, that everyone likes. And that's what I'm doing today. And that movie is Blackfish. It really it really explains the beauty of SeaWorld and the love of whales and the story of Tikilum. And it shows the tragic things to whales, which we do sometimes when we hunt them down or kill them. In fact, it even shows the 1970s orca that made them look intimidating. In fact, when I was watching this film a week ago, and when it mentioned a Tikilum killing those workers, it just really felt a little like death cringing. Who wouldn't feel like that? Yet, it also explains in well detailed why this could have happened. Because, I mean, whales sometimes can be separated from their families. And sometimes they don't have enough space. And sometimes, I'm not saying people actually do this, but sometimes, like when some orphanage owners abuse orphanage kids. Sometimes some workers can be harsh to those whales. Not saying people at SeaWorld are, but it could be a possibility. It really showed the deaths of those workers in dark ability, and it really did show the tragic backstory of the whales, and it also showed the interesting things about these whales and it teaches a good moral. Sometimes, never, and it even is on the cover of the movie. Never catch what you can't control. Just because you can control orcas doesn't mean that you can control all of them. In fact, you can't always overrule them. Sometimes they're going to be independent and they'll rebel against their owners sometimes. Like Tikilum did. What he did was really unforgiving and shocking, especially to children. They saw the whole thing and they were just crying during the middle of a show. And the way people described it in the movie was really scary. Like he dragged her and flashed her and the lady's shoe fell off. And another orca dragged a person down into the water, probably, and had injuries on her. It's just really dark. But what did I think of this movie? I would go into more detail, but let's go into my final thoughts right now. I love it. Honestly, I love documentaries for one thing. I'm not saying I'm interested in all documentaries, but a lot of them I'm interested in, or at least films that aren't considered documentaries but have a tie in history, like Titanic. Haven't seen it yet, but you get what I mean. It's not exactly considered a documentary, but it has a historical event. And I really liked the dark tone of this movie and the scary tones, even though it really was scary. And I really like zoo films, as you might have seen my Quinique review. It really goes into detail about certain zoo animals that are become legendary and their backstory and what happened to them. It gives them an interesting detail why they're so popular. Like Quinique is the highlight of the Louisville Zoo, and Tikilum, I really hope I'm pronouncing it right. Tikilum, whatever. Just tell me how to pronounce it right, or I might find out later. He was like one of the infamous and famous of SeaWorld. Also, I like the orcas in this. I mean, orcas are one of my favorite animals. And if I was an Indian, that would be like my tribe animal. As if you know about the Northern Indians in Canada, you know about the different animals they have, the tribe animals. Anyway, overall, Blackfish I would recommend. It teaches a good moral, has a dark tone, it expresses the backstory and the events of what would happen if this ever happened to a killer whale. And it also goes into detail on explaining why this happened, and explains the importance not to do this, because then you wouldn't end up like those people. I mean, they either fell in. One of them was a girl who was doing a show, and she either slipped and fell in, or the orca grabbed her. It's really like a debate. There are many debates in this movie on whether Tikilum was a monster when he did that, or he was just doing that because that's how he felt. I give this movie a good rating of 10 out of 10. Well, I hope you liked my review. By the way, don't catch what you can't control, okay? Chase Down Mike signing out. I hope you enjoyed, and I would recommend this movie. Especially if I'm not going to look at pictures. I haven't heard of it really much. Thank you.